Hello, welcome to Liberty Bites on the Think Liberty Network. This is Matt McGowan sitting in for William Gadsden. In the wake of the recent shootings, which took place in El Paso, Texas, and right here in my own backyard in Dayton, Ohio, we're again hearing a lot about how the United States is in a class of its own when it comes to gun violence. According to a recent study from the Small Arms Survey, which is a Geneva-based research initiative that tracks guns worldwide, the U.S. leads the world with an average of 2.7 gun homicides for every 100,000 people, a number that's more than 5 times as many as the next closest country. Statistics such as these, when coupled with the relative ease in legally obtaining firearms in the United States versus the rest of the world, have been cited by many otherwise reasonable people as Exhibit A in the case for stricter gun control laws in the U.S. The problem with this line of thinking, however, is that it focuses solely on homicides committed using a gun. According to a United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime study, when you compare the overall intentional homicide rates, regardless of the weapon used, with the rest of the world, the United States finishes roughly around the middle of the pack, ranking 94th out of the 219 countries included on the study. Now, this is an especially significant difference when you consider that, in reality, there's a number of countries who likely underreport or even fail to include murders carried out by their own government that are ranked beneath us. Examples would include such human rights luminaries as China, North Korea, Cuba, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, just to name a few. Interestingly enough, the United States probably ranks even lower if you remove just 3 cities with the highest murder rates. Cities like Chicago, St. Louis, and Baltimore, which incidentally have some of the strictest gun control laws in the country. The fact of the matter is, violent crime in the U.S. has fallen sharply over the past quarter century. Using the 2 most commonly cited sources of crime statistics in the U.S., the annual FBI report on serious crimes reported to the police and the annual survey of more than 90,000 households conducted by the Bureau of Justice Statistics, which ask Americans ages 12 and older whether they were victims of crime, regardless of if it's been reported to the police, violent crime rates have substantially declined since their peak in the early 90s. Using the FBI's numbers, the violent crime rate fell 49% between 1993 and 2017, which, as impressive as that is still lower than the 74% reduction shown in the Bureau of Justice Statistics survey, meaning that violent crime, while still an issue that needs to be addressed, is hardly the epidemic that it's being painted to be right now. Look, it should come as no surprise to anyone that the country with the highest rates of gun ownership in the world would also have the highest rates of gun homicides. However, as we've illustrated, that hardly paints the whole picture. Worse still, the focus on how these kinds of atrocities are committed rather than on the why has seemingly prevented the core issues from being addressed. For example, 1 in 5 gun deaths in the U.S. are young men aged 15 to 34, men most likely to die at the hands of other young men due to gang loyalties or other street violence resulting directly from the failed war on drugs. It's worth noting as well that the weapons used in these crimes are rarely legally obtained, limiting the impact any additional restrictions imposed on legal gun ownership could possibly have. The fact is, mass shooting incidents, such as what occurred in El Paso and Dayton, while heartbreakingly tragic, make up a relatively small portion of the total gun homicides in the U.S. And while we all want to find a way to prevent them from happening again, as cities like Chicago, St. Louis, and Baltimore illustrate to us, there's nothing to suggest that restricting the rights of law-abiding citizens to own firearms can have any type of positive impact on these types of crimes. And that includes the recently proposed red flag laws, which, apart from being a ripe vehicle for abuse, have little chance of being helpful when the signs are ignored, as they were in these cases as well as so many of these incidents in the past. So what can we do? Well, when it comes to overall gun violence, I think the answer is pretty clear. The largest culprit in this country's gun violence is the war on drugs, and it has to end today. As for how to prevent mass shootings, it's been said time and time again, and we mentioned it before, so many warning signs from the perpetrators of these types of crimes go unheeded by those who know them best. We have to stop looking to government for an answer and start looking to ourselves. We have to be involved with the people we know. That doesn't mean calling the FBI on them, but maybe talking to them. If you see somebody who's struggling, reach out, talk to people, and be a positive difference in the lives of those around you, including those you disagree with politically or spiritually. Stop dehumanizing people you disagree with. And maybe, just maybe, we can reclaim the humanity that truly made this country great. This is Matt McGowan for Liberty Bites on the Think Liberty Network. Thanks for listening.